working on solving equations again today. The first, I would say most of the first page you should be able to figure out on your own. Number 12. I'd like to do number 12. How many operations do you see on number 12? It's 2 or 3, depending on how you look at it. If you treat 2/3 as a single number, then there would be 2 operations. But I like to think of it as 2x over 3 plus 10 equals 4. In which case, this would be step 1, and this would be step 2, and this would be step 3. Oh, that's a 10. Sorry. This should be 10. So to undo that, I would subtract 10. You get -6. And then I need to undo the divide 3. How do you undo divide 3? Multiply by 3. So it's -18. And then divide by 2, which would be -9. That would be the answer. Okay. Take a look at 19. How many operations do you see? Yeah, there are 2. So we have the subtraction and the squared. How do you undo a squared? Square root. You could do that, but that's going to make it more complicated. To undo a second power, you actually use the square root. But there's a trick. If I had x squared equals 9, how many answers are there for that equation? 3 certainly works. Is there another one that you can multiply by itself and still get +9? -3. So whenever you square root a variable squared, the answer has 2 parts, plus or minus 3. So over here, I'm left with x minus 7 equals plus or minus 3. And then I need to add 7. What is plus or minus 3 plus 7? Don't say plus or minus 10. It doesn't work that way. So it's +3 plus 7 or -3 plus 7. So 3 plus 7 would be 10. So x equals 10. But what is -3 plus 7? 4. And both of those are correct answers. And I'll show you how it works on the inside. If I plug in 10, 10 minus 7 is 3. Is 3 squared equal to 9? Yes. Plug in 4. 4 minus 7 is -3. Is -3 squared equal to 9? Yes. So that actually has 2 answers. So over on the next problem, this would be step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. So you would add 1, take the square root, and don't forget, when you square root, you get plus or minus, and then multiply by 3, and then add 6. Okay? Look at the next page. Take a look at, say, number 25. I'm not going to solve this for you, but I will go through the order. Of all the operations on there, what is the first thing that happens to x? Squared. That's step 1. What's the second thing that happens to x? -5. That's step 2. Next would be 10. And then, so 3 would be step 4. Multiply by 4 would be step 5. And then the 1 would be step 6. Once you have all the steps labeled, then you undo them in reverse order. So you would add 6, and then divide by 4, and then subtract 3, and multiply by 10, and add 5, and then take the square root. Do you understand how that process works? You start with the variable, you go through and label them, all the operations in order, and then you peel them apart one at a time using the inverse operation. And lastly, on the back side, we have some generic variable solving, and I'll do a bunch of these with you. Generic variable solving really confuses kids for some reason, but it's by far easier than what you did before. So for number 28, r times t equals d. I want to solve for t. What's holding the t and the d together? Multiplication, so I need to divide by r. What is d divided by r? I have no idea. So we're just going to leave it as d divided by r. T equals d divided by r, and I'm done. For number 20, I need to solve for a. What's the first thing that happens to a? Subtract the b and then multiply by 2. I'm going to undo those backwards. So divide by 2. What is c divided by 2? It's just c divided by 2. A minus b equals c divided by 2. Now I need to add b. So a is equal to c over 2 plus b. Those end up being pretty easy because there's no calculation to perform. You just need to move everything in the correct order. And lastly, let's take a look at let's do 31. What should I move first? Is it C or D? Well, let's go through the order of operations. Subtract H would be first. Multiply by 2 would be second. What would be third? C would be before the D, so this would be 3 and this would be 4. So when we solve in reverse order, I'm going to multiply by D, so dA. What would be next? So I multiply by D and the D's cancel. Then what? I need to add C, undo step 3, so plus C, those cancel. Next, divide by 2. And when you divide multiple things by 2, just divide all of it by 2. And lastly, plus H, and this would equal X. Okay? The one that you don't need to do is number 34. Everybody cross off number 34. That one it's quite complicated and we haven't got to that step yet. Okay. Good luck.